Hello, good morning. My name is Mama Viosu Abuaji. We thank you for watching Joy News happening at the Alisa Hotel right this minute. It's an education summit which is being organized by the Ministry of Education. Amongst some of the things being discussed is the importance of research in bettering the quality of education in our country. And speaking now is the Minister of Education, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh. We'll take you live now to join in the presentation.
Into Ghana. Context matters. So I have an ongoing battle with my chief director and my director in Ghana Education Service about the context of setting, implementing decisions they are taking. One of the biggest ones, Mrs. Bosomchi-Sam are fighting over. That yesterday, the Minister of State for Tertiary Education supports so brilliantly in vetting that I still don't understand is our use in certain parts of the country of local languages. I'm still not convinced. But my mind is not made up yet. And whether you shake your head or not, I need to be convinced. It doesn't matter. I have not said, and I've assured the Chief Director that I'm not counseling anything, but I may not enthusiastically support it because I'm not convinced. Not that I'm putting a break to anything that is happening. Maybe those who are championing it are not explaining. If you have research, you translate it to the policy and legislation, and you cannot explain it to the unknowledgeable folk, you have done nothing, actually. You've done actually nothing. The quality of a nation's workforce is traceable to the kind of education that it gives to its citizens. Education is an important tool for rallying the people for national development. This is why governments over the years have done their best to shape our system of education in a positive way. Ghana, like many other sub-Saharan African countries, has made significant progress in improving access and participation over the last 4 decades. There we go again. Gross enrollment ratio, basic level, 2015-2016, 123%. For KG, 111% primary, and 88% for junior high school. The net enrollment ratio, 79% KG, 91 primary, 50.3 KG. JHS. Gender parity index, kindergarten and primary, 1.01. The GPI for JHS for the same period was 0.97. The completion rate for the 76% for JHS. If every Ghanaian child was in school, fantastic evidence. But when at certain levels we have 52% out of our school system, we have to start thinking, what do these things really mean to the average Ghanaian? However, low learning outcomes, absenteeisms, inadequate resources, and low time on task continue to remain our serious concern. Low resources is not leaving us soon. And that is why evidence is so important. We must invest the little that we have in things that work, not things that will change our mind 3 years down the lane. The government is resolved to support the to deal with these challenges by increasing teacher motivation and resource education, certainly to improve learning outcomes in Ghanaian schools. It is not only teacher motivation and resource allocation that matters. Ghana Education Service must reinvent itself to be accountable to the general populace that what we have done this year, this is what we have achieved. I want a Ghana Education Service that is going to tell us, we took these number of Ghanaian children through this examination, this is the pass rate this year, and show consistently serious increase in the pass rates, and better pass rates, not C6s. That doesn't take you anywhere. We will liaise with all actors, including development partners, donors and civil society organizations, to design and implement interventions that will inure to our educational goals. I think one thing we can all agree, there's no single country in the world where the educational goal is not about quality. It's how we define our quality and what we do about it that matters. Goal 4, maybe I'll be short, of the United Nations Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development Goals include education as one of its key priorities and stresses the need to ensure an inclusive, equitable, high-quality education for all. Target 1 talks about rights to secondary education. Okay, we'll talk about that later. To achieve this goal as a nation, the government of Ghana is collaborating with various partners to implement major programs and interventions. I wouldn't belabor the point with our free SHS and the mainstreaming of TVET. Government is committed to teacher education and learning outcomes. TTL is important, but we must see the end of TTL so that we can move to implementation. TTL cannot be with us and hop from one area to area. We need to end and implement something if we are learning from TTL. We are also committed to improving access to and quality of senior high schools through a secondary education improvement project, improving early grade reading or early grade literacy and numeracy, mainstreaming out-of-school children through CBE and sustaining that program, and implementing more efficient management systems in our schools. Leadership also matters here. Despite all these efforts, there are still areas that demand our urgent attention. In spite of the supply-driven social interventions meant to take the indirect cost of education off parents, some families still do not prioritize the education of their children. Ladies and gentlemen, research is important to help us understand what interventions work and how they can be better tailored to help us achieve our set targets. In the last decades, rigorous field research has provided us with a number of important lessons and evidence on how to improve learning outcomes. Unfortunately, the evidence revealed by research and its existing implications for policy decisions are not always readily known to policymakers and practitioners. This is because meaningful engagement between researchers on one hand, practitioners and policymakers on the other hand, remains limited. Fostering dialogue between these groups is critical in order to improve efficiency and enhance delivery of quality education. The Evidence Summit aims to bring together the researchers in education, practitioners of education and policymakers. It will address this knowledge gap and also develop a research agenda which will be targeted at improving quality education delivery and management. The research agenda is also an aspect of the secondary education improvement project. I hope we ask the right questions to drive the research agenda. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, many education practitioners and policymakers often see research as mere academic activity. But every aspect of education delivery is about research. This is because as teachers prepare to teach, they need to constantly learn by finding out new ways of doing things, analyzing information, and adapting to new behavior of pupils and students. If we continue to use the old ways we were taught now, we will run into difficulty because new ways and new technologies have emerged. Basing teaching and learning on our own experience alone will not help the 21st century learner who is a digital native. We need to engage in research to know, for instance, which new technologies are worth introducing into the school system and how they can be used. Basing our practice solely on our own learning experience means education runs the risk of being outdated. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that there's a moral dimension to the teaching profession. To follow dogma blindly is wrong. Education should serve to liberate and promote democracy and equality of opportunity. The only way to do this is to research into our current practices and what learners and other stakeholders require. It would introduce the audience that I've had a letter from a very powerful group amongst us that says, so if we have decided to professionalize our teachers, who pays for it? If we don't professionalize teaching profession, what are we doing? In our part of the world, education is sometimes used for political purposes. Everywhere, I believe. To base educational practice around an ideology means that evidence can be selected to score political points. To follow an ideological route limits one's choice, which is contrary to the real purpose of education. As a society, our primary interest should be the best interest of the child. And this should guide us in ensuring that our children are adequately prepared for national development. Research and evidence can enable teachers to understand what works and why it works. It will help to identify what long-term and short-term implications are and provide justification and rationale for decisions and actions. It will help build a repertoire of experiences that will help to deal with unexpected and identify problems and inform decisions. It will also make us aware of what has worked in other contexts and how these can be adapted. Large-scale studies into pupil performance can help to identify trends and enable educational outcomes to be related to social and economic needs. Teaching does involve creative thinking and experimentation. All professionals need to be able to trust their sources of information, and strict research ethics provide that assurance. Ladies and gentlemen, I charge you to deliberate and come out with practical ways by which researchers, educational practitioners, and policymakers can collaborate effectively. Using research to deliver quality education to our future generations is a vital responsibility on our shoulders. On this note, I declare the Ghana Education Evidence Summit duly opened. I wish you successful